First of all, I want to apologize for all the technical issues on the last video for the Finding Bigfoot after show. I'm doing this solo, so y'all got to bear with me. Tonight's episode of Finding Bigfoot was actually pretty great. It was down in Brazil in the Amazon, and they had some interesting things happen down there. Not all of them were Mapinguari related. They talked to a David Oren, who has been studying the Mapinguari legend for a long time, and David Oren is convinced that what these people are seeing is actually a giant ground sloth. The Finding Bigfoot team wasn't so sure, and I think the Finding Bigfoot team was correct. I mean, giant sloth, that just kind of, it's not something you can easily wrap your head around. All the witnesses that they talked to described a more ape-like entity, a Sasquatch type creature down in Brazil. And they had a guy named Dudu, D-U-D-U, by the way, that was his name, who guided Matt, Cliff, and Renee. Bobo actually stayed behind in the city to let his ankle rest. He has an infected ankle, so he was letting it rest. And Cliff, Matt, and Renee were out in the jungles with their guide. On the first night, they had some interesting things happen, like running across the creepy crawlies, especially tarantulas. There's plenty of tarantulas down there in the South American jungles. Renee made sure she didn't put her hand on a tree because there was a tarantula on it, and the guide told her that it could have poison on its bristles, so it wasn't a good idea to touch it. So she didn't touch it, and they heard a strange noise, which the guy later said sounded like it was a jaguar, and they do have jaguars down there in the South American jungles, which you gotta be careful of. Then Renee embarked on a solo expedition, but she actually was with another guide, and with a shaman. And interestingly enough, they're walking by these trees, and the shaman had a way to repel mosquitoes. That's put your hand on the tree, let ants get on your arm, then you rub the ants onto your arm or into your skin, and it's natural insect repellent. So Renee tried that, and she was getting bitten by the ants, but I'm pretty sure it was probably a pretty effective method. I would imagine that that's a method they use in lieu of bug spray, because it's not that easy to get bug spray out in the jungle. So you got to use you got to utilize the natural resources. Now Bobo actually, he was back in the city. He was sampling some of the local cuisine, and also he talked to an eyewitness who had a sighting about 6 months beforehand. That was the most recent sighting that either any of the team members received, because a lot of the other sightings that the team members received were like 50 and 60 years old. This one was pretty recent. And really wasn't much found other than they heard jaguars quite a bit. And in one instance, they heard an ocelot. What may have been an ocelot. So those are certainly something you don't want to mess with. And Cliff and Matt saw something on a therm. It was something large. They went towards it. It was either one of two things. It was either a giant bird or a giant bat. Oh, and there were bats in that area too, by the way. Lots of bats. One instance, the guy, Dudu, was actually trying to call a Mapinguari and wound up calling it a bunch of bats. There were bats flying all around him. So, as they did this, finally, um, they had the final night investigation, and Bobo actually joined them. He figured he'd rested his ankle up pretty well. He wanted to join them for the last night investigation. Now, there was one thing that was very consistent throughout some of the accounts, and that was that these were individuals hunting in the jungle, and they had fish, and they would put the fish on top of the fire, like on these wooden platforms. Sometimes the fish bones or some kind of parts of fish would fall into the fire, and the smell would get out, and you would have people encountering these creatures that show up. The creatures show up because of the smelling the fish on the fire. Of course, you got to be careful of gigantic cats. You have to be careful of big cats. Big cats will be attracted to that kind of stuff too. Well, on the final night investigation, they were doing. Now, they were told by one shaman that the Mapinguari actually responds to one knock. They do one knock. You can do one knock and you'll get a response sometimes. Well, the team did that and they got a response knock, which, by the way, was enhanced. And that's something we have been after them about here at Looking for Bigfoot News Hour, was for them to enhance the sounds on the show so we can hear what they're hearing. And sure enough, they've been doing that. So we're really appreciative of that. Anyway, this was a tremendous episode. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. It was great. There was one instance where they ran across one of the deadliest snakes in the world, a fernlance. And Matt had the brilliant idea to let the guide poke at it. I'm like, are you stupid or something, Matt? I mean, what the heck? You want to poke at a freaking dangerous, deadly snake? I don't think so. But no, I think it was a great way to start off the season. It was really tremendous. I really enjoyed it. And hopefully next week we will have a live hangout show without all the problems. So it was a great way to start off the season, and I hope that the rest of the season will be just as good.